Hi, this is Mark Santoro with the Homestead Funds. I appreciate the opportunity to share this video with you on our 2020 capital markets review and most importantly, our 2021 outlook. As I said, Mark Santoro, President and CEO of the Homestead Funds. And now that you've read my bio, let's get started. So 2020, what a year, to say the least, an understatement. In my 37 plus years in this business, I've never experienced an economy, a market, situations that we all experienced in 2020. For 2020, we literally had 3 to 4 market cycles all in a given year. January through February through mid-March, we were in a positive environment, a positive growth, a stable interest rate environment, and then the pandemic hit. And the last couple of weeks in March decimated the markets. So we ended up being a down first quarter and a real turbulent outlook for the remainder of the year. But second quarter, we started to see some positive results. With the Fed stimulus and multiple stimulus actions, we saw stability in the credit markets, which translated into some potential upticks in the equity markets. So the second quarter, we saw positive results. Again, coming off a minus 34% in the first quarter, which really happened in a 10-day time period. Third quarter, we started to see some bumpiness in the market. And, that's a result of unsure with the pandemic, the direction, an increase in the number of cases of COVID. And in the fourth quarter, we saw November unlike any and kind of just continued in through December. So you had literally 4 different economies in one in 2020. What we saw in November gives us positive outlook for what we see into 21. And really, Biden's cabinet picks are starting to reveal that his administration will plan on tackling the pandemic first and foremost. The positive vaccine news with Pfizer, Moderna in November. Interest rates and a commitment by the Fed to keeping them low for the foreseeable future, we think at least through 21, 22. And again, the bond market's recovery in 2020, all a byproduct of the Federal Reserve's commitment to providing liquidity and credit. So 21, what does this mean for 21? The record growth of GDP in the third quarter reflects efforts to reopen businesses and resume activities that were postponed or restricted due to COVID. Let's start and end with one thing. What's going to drive the 21 economy is the pandemic recovery. First and foremost, we have Operation Warp Speed, the development of vaccines, and hopefully soon to be a third. Now, the development of the vaccines is great, but it's the ability to get shots in the arm that's going to matter, and how soon and the logistics around that is going to really drive when we really see a positive turnaround in the economy. If you look at the second quarter, as I talked about, the end of the first quarter on this slide, we saw the minus 5% and then another down 31%. But look at the third quarter. That was November. We had elections being resolved, moderation when it comes to what we think policy. And then if you look at, as we go into the fourth and then first, second, third, fourth quarter, positive uptick, we believe, starting in the second quarter, once the vaccine gets distributed widely throughout the U.S., and then really into the third and the fourth quarter where it starts affecting businesses. And, that's where we see the recovery starting. And then obviously continuing into 2022, but really this latter part of 21 being that bounce, if you will. So what was the global response to the economic stimuluses? This is what really kept the economy on somewhat stable footing. And now the economy relative to the stock market is different than the economy relative to grassroots efforts. But the fiscal stimulus and the spending by the various governments was so much larger this time around than when we looked at in 2008. Just look at the U.S., 4.9 in fiscal relief versus 12.1. That's in, from a percentage standpoint, 3 times as much. Look at Germany. Now, that's a commitment on behalf of government to not let this pandemic slow the economy down and keep people secure and whatnot. And we don't think that that's going to end. So all that type of government spending obviously leads to inflation because you have deficits, but a difference now that in years past, the Fed has already said that the target of 2% inflation can be surpassed. Depending upon what article you read, we tend to think that, especially given with the vaccines and the commitment to getting the economy back on track, and now a commitment to the economy, you're going to see inflation perhaps in the second half of this year getting up well above 2%, in the 2.5 to 2.8% range, and possibly into 22. But that's okay, because if you looked at that former chart, that's kind of a third and fourth quarter bump due to the amount of money pumping into the system. There's also a lot of money on the sidelines. What I mean by money on the sidelines, manufacturing, R&D, research and development, a lot of money by corporate that is yet to invest. Same thing with consumers, money that perhaps they were concerned about spending on goods and services because of fear of maybe losing their job or the economy going to bust. So a lot of cash on the sidelines. If you look at Q2 at 2.8 inflation target, Q2 into Q3, that's okay. The Fed has already said that they're fine with that. So inflation could be on the way, but it's not a real concern. The unemployment rate continues to fall. Actually, in December, it upticked a little bit, as you can see from 2009 to 2020, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. So when we say it continues to trend down, latter part of the fourth quarter, December, wasn't great on jobs numbers. But again, once small businesses get additional fiscal relief, which we think in the current package that's been approved, we also think there could be another $1 trillion plus package coming once the new administration comes in. Again, the commitment is the pandemic first and the economy second, in that order. And once they get their arms around distribution of vaccines, we believe that the money going into small businesses, which is really where unemployment was hit the hardest, restaurants, as an example, hospitality, hotels, airlines. Once money gets back into circulation, we think that the economy will pick up and unemployment will go down, employment numbers go up, job numbers go up. So the new administration, no matter whether you're in a blue state, red state, purple state, it is believed in the markets. This isn't a political, opinion in the markets. Biden has a very strong reputation for being a consensus builder. Markets like consensus builders. Markets like individuals that have a track record of moderation. And certainly, no matter who you voted for, this individual does. So he also has a moderate administration with his cabinet members that I talked about. And most importantly, with the Senate, a slim majority, the filibuster rule is still in place, and that goes to all major expenditures. You have to have 2/3. So you just can't ram things through. So it's going to be a collaborative effort to get the economy on track, which means that the fears of a liberal agenda are tempered. So where does bipartisanship exist? It's number one, containing the virus and getting the vaccine to American households. Number two, right on the heels and in concert, at least in the first month, is additional fiscal spending for individuals, small businesses, and state and local governments. State and local governments is going to be the harder of the three, but we believe that that's going to be a priority. And then third is an infrastructure spending package: highways, bridges, tunnels, neglected highways, bridges, and tunnels that we haven't seen spending on since the Eisenhower years coming out of World War II. Certainly an emphasis on broadband. One thing the pandemic showed us is that people in rural communities without broadband are at a disadvantage for work at home, for schooling, for Medicare. So that is something that is high on the list. And then renewable energy, which we think is more of a long-term trend, but certainly within an infrastructure type of package. Consumer spending drives the U.S. economy. And if you look at what happened from January to December, that's what drives our economy in the long run. We are a service-based economy, and consumers drive those services. So what I was talking about before, as more money comes off the sidelines, spending is increased through fiscal government programs, shots in the arm that people can get back to work. You're going to see entertainment and recreation, which got hit, transportation, healthcare, restaurants, that's going to come back. What didn't really suffer was grocery and retail. What people weren't spending in restaurants, what people weren't spending in airlines and trips, they were spending in groceries to cook at home. They were spending in retail, Amazon and whatnot. Buying through the internet really helped drive and stabilize that aspect. But you're going to see that bottom part of this chart to increase once we see the economy start to gain some footing. So this is a cute slide, a V-shaped recovery, V for vaccine. If you look at the US versus China versus Europe versus Asia, we're all looking at from 20 to 21 that V shape. And then for 21 you're going to see that coming down into 22, but the majority of that growth is going to come in the second and third quarter and get us back to pre-pandemic levels and above. So if you look at 19 to where we are in 21, it's definitely an upward trend. 22, we won't talk about 22 till we get through 21, but definitely a V-shaped vaccine-related recovery. And again, all based upon the immunity and businesses opening up and people feeling safe. So with this economic outlook that we see, positive in the second half of 21, early part of 21 is going to be bumpy. And that's going to be based upon fiscal spending and the ability to get back on track. But we do see opportunity in 21, and we also see opportunity long term. We're a very strong believer in information technology. We do think consumer staples have an opportunity, but really where you see is those shaded areas: information technology, healthcare, industrials, again, as a byproduct of infrastructure spending, and then communication services. Those three areas, or those four areas, we see opportunities long term. And if you look all the way to the far right of this chart where it has energy, which is December 20 got hammered, and then the 10-year average, there is a value opportunity there, but not in traditional energy spending, but more towards renewables and a repurposing of the energy economy, which I think, and we think long term, 10, 20 years, can have significant upside. So what's ahead? High volume, high levels of volatility in the first half of 21. There are still people out of work. There is still a major pandemic. As of this recording, January 13th, a dire situation. COVID, as I said in the very beginning, is going to get us out of this. So, there's still going to be volatility around the vaccine getting distributed throughout the country. and that's going to take the first and the second quarter, and that's going to drive economic demand, and that's going to be the lion's share of government and business focus. Strong economic recovery starting to begin towards the tail end of Q2, escalating into the second half of the year. Again, all around immunization throughout the population, that fiscal spending, we believe, in yet another bill coming up, and then interest rates remaining low. Even though we talked about inflation perhaps getting as high as 2.8%, doesn't matter. The Federal Reserve has already said they'll accept that because normalization will come back in the 2% range. So our vision on interest rates, at least for 21, 22, remaining where they are right now. So what we see ahead is some bumpiness first half of 21, a V-shaped, vaccine-shaped recovery into Q3, into Q4. So never a video without a little bit about Homestead funds. Those of you that are shareholders, thank you for your support. Those that aren't, would love to talk to you about our capabilities. We have over 100 years experience in our equity and fixed income group. We just celebrated our 30-year anniversary on November 19th of 2020. So we've been providing mutual fund products to our cooperative membership for the past 30 plus years now. We're very proud of that, and we're very proud of the support. We have a strong and consistent track record within our fund group. So if you like our economic outlook, we invest based upon our views, and I think our performance in the funds shows that consistency over time. And last but not least, I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share our market outlook with you. If you'd like more information or to talk to me, you can call 800-258-3030, option 2, or shoot us an email. We'd love to share our views, talk more about your individual needs or your employee needs. So thank you very much. Health, happiness, and safety in 21. And we look forward to seeing you real soon. Take care.